So now that I've freed up a bit of time from finishing that, what shall I read next? Um, I have something to finish, which is the Proust Remembrance of Things Past. I'm on the very final volume of that. There were it was published originally in 7 volumes, and I'm on the very last volume of it, Time Regained. And oh, it's been wonderful reading that. And I'm going to be so sad when I finish it. I actually started it many years ago and have only got around to finishing the last few volumes in recent years. But I love that book so much, and I love Proust so much. And I might link to it underneath. Um, I actually did 2 videos, I think, on Proust on another channel that I have, that I put some of my reading and writing things on. So I'll link you up with those. If anybody is a Jacques Tati fan, because we were talking about movies earlier, one of my Proust videos is about Jacques Tati and Proust, which is kind of an unusual connection. So you might find that interesting. But to cheer me up from the sadness of parting with Proust, um, I have decided to read a book I read before that I know I'm going to love reading again, because it's sometime since I read it. It's a Murakami, Kafka on the Shore, it's called. And Haruki Murakami is always fabulous to read. I love him. This particular book, Kafka on the Shore, is in the genre that's known as magic realism, which just means that anything can happen in it because the ordinary laws of physics don't apply to the world in those kinds of books. So, typically you could talk to ghosts, or supernatural things could happen, or other things that break the laws of physics. And there are loads of cats in this book, which I love, loads of interesting characters. And I can't remember if he talks about jazz in it, but he talks about an awful lot of things I really like and works it all into a fictional plot. So I'm really looking forward to reading that again, because the first time I read that, I thought, oh, this is amazing. I never want it to end. But then, you're reading a good book, you're going to think that. I thought that with Proust as well. So because I'm a sucker for Murakami, and hoovered up every book I could get of his in my local library originally, I remember I never got to finish reading one he has called IQ 84. So it looks like the book 1984 on the cover, but it's IQ 884. And that's kind of a dystopian sci-fi-ish book. But I can't remember why I stopped reading it when I got it out of the library. It's a trilogy, so maybe I only read the first part and couldn't get my hands on the other 2 parts to continue. But they had it on special offer with both books. So I got Kafka on the Shore and the trilogy as well. It just made sense to get the 2 of them together price wise. So that's a huge book. But I don't know if I'm going to read that straight after the other Murakami, because I have a nonfiction book that I want to read, and another on a related topic that I've ordered. That's not coming till June because they've got a new edition of it out. And that one is a Camille Paglia book called Sexual Personae. And it's about art, women, and society, basically. And it's a book I read as a teenager that was very influential on me. I became an artist not because of it, but I became an artist and thought back about the book very many times during my artistic career and during my career as a female. And this is the other book that I thought back on a lot. It's Germaine Greer's The Female Eunuch, which came out first in 1970. And I read that as a teenager, and I read Greer and Paglia not so distant from each other. And both of them were they were both books that made me think, oh, that's what's going on. Because the minute I hit teenagerdom, I thought, there's something really weird about the relationship between fellas and girls. And it was something you realize as a girl, as a teenager. And these two books sorted me out about what it was that was going on. And when something is true to you, you just recognize it and you're nodding your head and saying, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I was nodding my head for a lot of the content in these books. Now, the Paglia one, uh, it should be interesting to reread them, you see, because I had a little listen of a tiny bit of the audiobook because I couldn't order, I had to wait on the order of the Paglia book to come in. Um, and the little bit that I listened to, a lot of the stuff she said I don't agree with anymore because she comes across to me now, this much later in my life. I mean, decades have almost kind of 3/4 of my life has gone by at this stage since I read them first. I now think that Paglia comes across as a bit of what they call on social media a pick-me. Compared to Greer, definitely. And she makes all kinds of weird excuses for guys that even in the short segment that I listened to, that I thought, why would you be making those kind of excuses for them? That's just not true what you're saying. So I have changed a lot in my life and learned a lot in my life. So I think reading them again is going to be really, really interesting. And I just bet I'm going to want to give my opinion about them to you or just mention them even on this channel. So we'll see what happens there. So that's, finish the Proust and then move on to Murakami. And then I think I might read Murakami all the way through and just have a totally immerse myself in one book thing rather than being like these people who have a big list of to be reads and are working on about 10 of them, reading 10 of them at the same time. I don't want to split up myself like that because I have had a lot of stuff on my plate recently and I want to be able to just wallow in a book, that kind of way. It's nice to have a wallow, isn't it? So I'm going to wallow in Murakami right after Proust, which I imagine I would be starting in less than a week's reading left in Proust, I would think. My problem is I keep going to bed, reading Proust at bedtime. I go into bed and only getting a few paragraphs read before I found that I've fallen asleep, and I might wake back up again, read another paragraph and fall asleep again. So I never get very far with it before I give up and just go to sleep, because books are that effective at putting you to sleep at night. However, I'm now freed up to, have a little reading session somewhere in my day as well, hopefully, as well as nighttime. So I think Proust will be regrettably finished soon, but Murakami will cheer me up. Okay, and if you find the thought of any of those books interesting, do read Burroughs by all means. The movie is to be recommended as well. It's a different thing, but what Cronenberg does with it is very interesting. And if the Murakami or the Greer and Paglia books sound interesting, check back for those, because it won't be too long before I start those and want to comment on them as well, I'm sure. Okay, bye-bye.